How would it feel if I could show you how to get out of a career rut and avoid getting into one ever again? Yeah, that's right. That's my promise to you here today. And if you would take the information, will you promise that you'll take that and then install it into your life, implement it into your career so that you do get out of wherever it is you right now? So this is the valuable information I want to put across to you today. So let's jump right into this. First things first, welcome back, viewers who are with me in the room. So I see there we have Joanne, we see Andrew on the list there. Let me also see Kevin. Welcome to this session. Now, there are other people joining, and I won't be able to say hi to all of you as you join, but I'll do my best. But look, I want to jump straight in. And so those of you who are live with me in the room, you'll have the opportunity to ask me questions. But welcome back to Career and Mission Growth Live. I go live here every single week to help you with your career strategy, to help you with your career tactics, so you can get the outcomes that you're seeking in as little time as possible, and hopefully with a little less effort that you're currently putting in. Maybe we can work a little bit smarter to get there. So one of the topics, I start with a question again. I just got in, I see people joining, so I just want to ask that question again. How would it feel if you could get out of the career rut or ruts that you've been in, or you may come into in the future, and avoid ever getting into one ever again? Would you promise that we take the information you hear today and implement that into your career and your life so that you can make huge strides and get the outcomes that you're seeking? So let's jump into this. I'm going to be real quick today. I've been a little bit distracted by the folks joining. That's okay. Let me start with a quote, and this is a quote, my quote to you, and you're happy for you to write this down so you can have this. True confidence comes when we live with our uncertainty, but we still decide to move forward with courage. I'll say that again. True confidence comes when we live with our uncertainty, but we still choose to move forward courageously. And you think about what we're talking about there is that when we find ourselves in a rut, one of the things that's sometimes missing is the courage to act. And that's kind of where I'm going to start. I'm going to talk about the little bit of problem that goes on here. What is the problem that we face? We get stuck in that rut, and there's a number of factors that cause that to happen. Now, without doubt, and this is all in the literature, you can go and check this out and read it for yourself. The number one thing is our feeling of being stuck in a rut is all to do with energy. It's all to do with the energy that we have in our physical body, the mind energy that we devote to a situation, the environmental energy of the place that we find ourselves in. And so we need to make an adjustment to our energy. So stick around. I'm going to give you 5 strategies today where I'll be able to share with you, these are the ways in which you can climb out of the rut. And then you're going to be able to put on a suit of armor that's going to stop you going back in again. So I hope that makes sense to you. Another reason why we may not find ourselves in the place we want to be is we don't actually believe in the career path that we're on. You ever feel that familiar? Yeah, and I've had this feeling. So let me tell you a quick story. I was working for an organization within the UK who were a mobile phone company. They worked with mobile operators and mobile institutions, and they sold mobile services. So people who had mobile phones, we sold services to them. It could be all kinds of things, from games to information services to messaging services. It could be any of those things. But I never felt quite aligned to that. I never had a belief in that career. And so what happened very quickly, after no more than 12 months inside that position, I became disillusioned of where I was. I didn't know what it was that I wanted to be there for. And so I started to feel like I got stuck in a rut, started to feel like there was a ceiling, and I wasn't sure that this was the right industry for me. And turned out it was true. So I didn't last too much longer after that before I packed up my bag and went in a different direction. Now, that is something that gets us stuck in a rut. The next thing is we sometimes question, what value are we bringing to the role that we're in? And we look around and we see other people maybe working on exciting projects, and we want to be involved in those exciting projects. And the role we're in doesn't marry with the value that we know we can bring. I have lots of conversations, had conversations this week with people who told me, I know what I want. I know I'm good, but I don't feel that in this role, I can deliver that value because I seem to be constrained and I feel stuck because of that constraint that's placed upon me. Another reason you may find yourself in a rut is there are actually other priorities for you right now. And the ones that you thought in your career that would be priority for you are not your priority. So the tasks that you're given by either yourself, because you're the manager, or the manager who you're working for, they don't feel like they're a priority to you. And so your life, the other things going on in your life outside of work and also inside of work, some of the conversations you have with teammates, some of the things going on inside of your business are more of a priority for you. So you feel stuck when you're trying to go against something that's hard and it's frustrating and it's difficult to make progress because, frankly, you're not interested in that right now. So that's the next one. The other thing that can get us stuck in a rut is frosty relationships, relationships that have healthy or otherwise conflict, difficult. What I mean by this is there's resistance in the relationship. There's no openness. It's not easy. It's not fun. Actually feels sometimes annoying. And we get frustrated by those relationships because you're not on that same wavelength as the other individual. And they say the same, or they've been reporting that back to you too. We just don't seem to be connecting here. Do you feel that? And rather than dive in and investigate that together as grown adults, we tend to repel and we retreat. And when we retreat, we're actually retreating into the rut where we find ourselves stuck. Now, it may not be just you. It may be the other person as well. But I wanted to start there, that was a valuable eye-opener for me is, why do I get stuck in ruts? And, it happened to me multiple times. Remember, I've been in my career now 26 years. It's kind of hard to imagine it's been going on that long. But certainly in the first half of my career, there were multiple moments where as a young 20-something, 30-something, I got stuck and I didn't know where to turn. And so I would have loved to have these strategies that I'm going to share with you today, love somebody to take me under their wing, to guide me through this and give me that plan that's going to make the difference to you. So I'm super excited. Stick around. Let's jump into this. I'm not even going to hang around too much more. We're talking about solutions or worrying about giving you any more detail. But I do want to share this with you. When we're stuck in a rut, we have to observe how we're behaving and how we're thinking. And one of the things that you've heard me talking about recently is this phrase, this kind of glamorous phrase of heartfelt justification, or in other words, a glamorous word for excuses. We start to unwittingly, unknowingly throw out excuses because of where we find ourselves. They typically sound like this. Hey, but James, you don't understand. I don't know how to get out of the rut. But James, I know I'm good at what I do. I know I deliver value. It's a shame that other people don't feel that. There's politics and there's game playing everywhere. James, you don't understand the politics inside my organization. Everybody's playing a game. James, I'm honest as the day is long. I carry myself with integrity and I get the job done, but nobody seems to value that. And so I just feel stuck because I feel like I'm a hamster in a wheel, and I'm just spinning round and round and round in circles, not making any meaningful progress. You feel that? This is the kind of what's going on, but we're verbalizing that and we're feeling it. So we start to change our energy while we're feeling these things. And then here's the big one. People say to me, James, I'd love to be able to work with you, or I'd love to be able to resolve this, but I can't take action right now because insert glamorous, heartfelt justification, excuse about why you can't decide now. And let's jump in then with the solution, because that's where we're going to start. The solution to all of this is 5 strategies. And the first one is you have to decide. You have to make a decision that you no longer want to be in the rut. And so what does that look like? Well, the first thing to do is to take personal responsibility. Now, some of you watching this, we've already spoken, and I know you've done a great job reaching out to me and saying, hey, I love some of the things that you talk about. I love that content. I'd love to know more about that. And I want to take personal responsibility from where I find myself and get it addressed, get it solved. I want to move. I don't want to be here. And that, my friends, is courage. That you actually took the time to type a message to me on a social platform or in an email or even in a text message. If I've known you long enough and we have each other's phone numbers, you're sending me texts with those same messages. And that's wonderful to receive. But I know I just want to reward you and acknowledge you that that's courage. And remember, that's where we started this conversation, is the more courage you have, the more likelihood that you're not going to be in a rut. You're going to get into what we'll do in a moment is movement, taking action. That's really important. So the next thing that happens when we make this decision is we make this decision that we're going to step into our best self. The best version of us doesn't use those heartfelt justifications I just talked about, doesn't bring up excuses, doesn't say that in our head in the internal dialogue. Our best version is courageous and bold and action-oriented and a problem solver, somebody who can get things done. You know who you are. You've told me. I know what to do. I know I'm good and I get things done. Great. So we need to put you in alignment so that you can actually get those things done. And only your best self can do that. Your worst self, and this is where there's going to be some hard-hitting stuff. Your worst self is this person you're carrying with you. It's actually the person inside you don't like. It's the person that you don't want to show to the world. And so you hide that person. I've heard this talked about on TV shows and documentaries as the shadow. And that shadow is something that we're carrying with us. And we dislike it the most. But here's the big problem with that. Your brain remembers this person. And so sometimes that worst self is showing up every single day, especially when we find ourselves in moments of challenge, in moments of difficulty, when there is adversity in our lives. Our worst self is to the fore, questioning. Well, be careful now. Are you really good enough to solve this? Are you somebody that gets out of ruts? Are you somebody that can be courageous? And yeah, I'm not sure if that's you. And that worst self has that voice in our head. And you know, it's like a little guy on your shoulder, it's maybe somebody in the back. They always bring up the why you can't do this. And that comes with us. And our brain remembers who that is. And it starts very early in our lives. Most of it's formed in childhood. And there's a moment of you where you felt shame, you felt embarrassed, and you carry that moment with you, and the brain remembers. So when we're stuck in a rut, your brain is connecting it back to times of hardship in the past and suffering. And that's what we're going to get past. So that's going to help you do that. Here's how we can deal with that immediately, is that we make an acceptance speech to ourselves. That three things that will always be present for us are the opposite of what we want, which is joy. And the opposite of that is struggle. That we're going to struggle, that we're not sure how difficult lives are going to be. And they're always going to be circumstances and events, good or bad, that are going to lead to struggle. So we have to make an acceptance speech. I accept struggle. Repeat after me. And write this down. Number 2 is to know that doubt is universal. You heard me talk about these in prayer sessions. You will always have doubt. It's your response to the doubt that makes the difference. But no, it doesn't matter where you get into your career, how many ruts you go through, the doubt will always be there. When you're working on exciting new projects, on things you've never done before, the doubt will raise its head. It will connect you back to the person in your head that says, are you sure that you're the person to be able to take this to the next level? Are you sure you're the person to finish this project, launch this program, get this product completed? Are you sure? That's what the doubt is saying to you. And here's our acceptance speech. I accept that doubt is universal, that everybody experiences it, including me, but I won't let it dictate what happens to me. So that's number 2. Third one on our acceptance speech is we have to accept that our career will always be a challenge. It doesn't matter how successful you get. The challenges just change as you go. So what does that revolve? It revolves never-ending improvement upon your part, meaning you're always going to have to put the work in so that you can embrace every new challenge. These are the things. I accept the challenge to step out of the rut. I accept the challenge to step to the next level. That's what we're looking for. So that's really important that you understand These three things are constant all the time: struggle and doubt and challenge and the need for improvement so that you can grow and you can address and progress where you want to get. Now, while all of this is going on in this moment of decision, we're only on point one, we're still talking about deciding. When we're in this moment of decision, we have to observe our current habits and behaviors. Now, I've given you one behavior, and that is the verbalization or the belief system in our heads that we're not good enough and that we're stuck and that we're making excuses. Observe that. And here's one thing I'd really like you to do. Start writing down everything you're thinking about. Make a note of when you're thinking doubt, when you're worried about challenge, when you're worried about the struggles, make notes. Just journal that out to yourself. And that ability to make it tangible and on the page divorces you from it. So you can see it from a distance, observe that, and then know, this isn't my identity. It's not who I am. This is just something I'm feeling. And that's, these thoughts aren't real. So when you take a look at them and divorce yourself a little bit from them, you can get a little bit more progress because you can see them independently, impartially of who your identity really is. So look, here's the bottom line with decision. With decision, you've got to decide and make a choice that you're going to take extreme personal responsibility for dealing with the rut. That's the number one thing. And you've got two options. In card games, there's stick or there's twist. I like to say there's stick or there's joy. So you can choose joy or you can stick where you are and you can stay in the rut. And this is something that came to me in a story. I'm going to tell you a quick story about a friend of mine, Nick. Now, I don't think it's the same Nick that we all know. You know that Nick? No, I'm just bringing that up because I remember Nick being stuck in a rut and coming to my office and asking me the question, James, I feel stuck. I feel like I've hit the ceiling. I feel like I'm valuable. I'm not being recognized. I'm unappreciated. And I really got to figure out how to get out of that. And I said, how long has this been going on? To which the response was about a year. So for 12 months, the voice of doubt, the voice of struggle, the voice of challenge, the voice of you can't do this, you're not good enough, had been inside Nick's head. And so the light switch was, Nick, there's a point, a tipping point where you'll make the decision because it's more important for you to progress and move forward than it is to stick. And the reason why is because you choose joy. You choose the meaningful life. And so that's the first one. Make a big decision to get yourself out of the rut. And you can do that with some courageous action. And that's where we're going next. We're going to talk about the second point is momentum. Do nothing, stick, stay where you are. No decision and you're stuck. But to get into momentum, you must choose that joy, choose that decision, and then you can move forward. And the easiest way to do this is to focus on things that you find for you are easy, advantageous, meaning there's a benefit to you taking that action, and fun. So many people go through their careers working in a job where they don't have fun. They're not enjoying working with the other people. They're not enjoying the role itself, the operational nature, the technical nature, the service nature of the role. They actually don't enjoy sales. They don't enjoy marketing. They don't enjoy operations and data and analytics. But what I'd like you to do is to step into fun. Find the things that you enjoy the most. And the way you do that is shifting your attitude to focus. Because your attitude when you're in the rut is typically chin on chest and you're not very uplifted. You're not very excited about what you're doing. So your attitude is down and it's impacted by your energy. In fact, these two things are closely related, that your attitude and your energy needs to be at the right place. Attitude is everything in this. Energy is everything in this. So your momentum comes that you know that you're going to find the immediate next best action. So I'll tell you something that we get wrapped up in is we think about the outcomes. And I had a conversation with one of my good friends this morning, Doug. And Doug was, I could see, thinking about outcome. And the outcome is, I want more money. I want more reward. And this is one of the conversations I have with a lot of prospects, a lot of clients, a lot of the people I come into contact with in my communities, in my groups, is that we're always focused on the outcome. But let me give you an analogy here. When we watch a Netflix series, maybe it's a limited series and there are 5, 6, 7 shows, we're not worried really about the outcome. We want to know the outcome, and that's what keeps us intrigued. But the most exciting element about a Netflix series is we're on the journey with the characters. We're embedded in their journey. You know, it's like whether it's the Star Wars 9 films, that we're on the journey with the Skywalker thing, right? So we're with that. Or whether it's, you know, the recent one I watched was a show called The Watcher. The end of that leaves you wondering, well, what's next? So the outcome wasn't actually exciting. And this is what happens when we achieve what we think we want. So if I gave you all the money in the world, your first question would be, after a very small time, turns out to be hours, not even weeks or days, what's next? Because you can go out and spend all the money, but that would be a foolish thing to do. What we need is progress and growth. So remember, the journey is more important than the outcome. So you have to go into momentum knowing, I'm just going to enjoy this, have some fun. And that means you got to mess some stuff up, including failing in your career, including making some missteps, especially if you're ill-advised. If you're ill-advised, you may make some missteps that weren't in alignment with who you are anyway. Have you ever done that? Yeah. So I've done that too. I've stepped into roles and taken positions where somebody advised me it was a good step. Turned out it wasn't, because it was out of alignment with my attitude, my energy, my own core values. I was worried about titles and I was worried about the money that I would get paid for that role. That is not doing the next best honorable thing, because you have to honor yourself in this. And that is something that to write that down. Do the next best honorable thing aligned to what you want. You've got to get some time in your schedule to think. What is it that I want? You want to know how to get into momentum? I look at your calendar today and I can't see any thinking time in there for the whole week or even at the weekend. First thing we're going to talk about is, where's your thinking time? Where are you thinking about how you move forward? How are you taking action? What is the next best action for you? That's got to be scheduled. Schedule that thinking time. And for me, most days between 5 a.m. and 6 a.m., I'm working on the moving forward. Critical thinking time, critical action time to go, what am I doing today that moves the needle forward, moves the ball down the field? This is important. And so last thing I'll say on this momentum piece, if you are stuck in a rut, the best thing I can say to you about changing and getting to momentum is to change the schedule you're currently on. It's what got you into the rut, is that you're on somebody else's schedule. More than likely, you're at the mercy of other people. And because of that, you don't have that thinking time. Because of that, you don't make courageous and bold moves. You're waiting to be told what to do. And when you're not told what to do, you question your value and you feel undervalued and you feel unappreciated. And so reward and recognition is out there in the distance. And we want to get past that. Okay, so that was number 2, and that is momentum. So first, we're going to decide. Second, we're going to get ourselves into momentum. And I've given you some of the tips and tricks there, the strategies that are going to move you forward. Let's go to number 3. There are 3 more, and then we will call this a wrap. Strategy number 3. You have to step into vulnerability. And remember, I talked to you about those people who reach out to be my message and they instigated the conversation. That's courage. It's not courage if I reached out to you. That's courage on my part to say, how are you doing? I'm just checking in. It seems like you're having a great career. How are things been going on in that role? What led you to leave? Why did you go to the next role? What are you looking for next? Those conversations, that's my courage. Your courage is to step forward and say, I need help. So strategy number 3 is to step into vulnerability and ask for help. Now, where do you go for the help? Because people always say the same thing. I don't know who to speak to. I don't know who to ask. And by the way, in 2018, before I retired from working for somebody else, I didn't know who to ask. So I went back to what I knew, which was, well, who's my personal development guru of choice right now? Let's start there. And I identified with a personal development, professional development trainer who was able to kind of shine a light into my life, shine a light into my work. And I could start to see how I was out of alignment. So I had to step into my vulnerability and reach out directly to him to say, hey, I need help. So you can ask for that mentor. And so mentorship is typically unpaid work. The mentor doesn't really have skin in the game. There's somebody who's guiding you based upon their experiences and their memory of what might work for you. But you might want to go to your family. You might want to find a trusted ally in the family. There may be a friend who's a trusted ally, somebody you work with, a peer or a colleague. Now, very rarely is this person in the organization where you work today. Be wary of that, because what happens inside organizations is tribes, they like to gossip. They like to gossip in the tribe, and that's to share information that's either inaccurate or accurate. So be wary of that. But the best place, I believe, is still the best place to go is to do what I did as the next step. Once I'd identified my mentor and listened to some of the messages, I leaned all the way in and asked for help and said, I need a coach, a career coach, somebody to take me from current reality, which at the time was pretty painful. I didn't want to work for anybody else anymore. Number one thing, this is not aligned with my values anymore. I always wanted to maybe have a little bit more freedom working for myself, doing something I enjoyed all the time, speaking on camera, training individuals, working in teams, traveling. These were the things that I wanted to do. And in my current position, I was unable to do that. And I wanted to go from that current reality to a desired state. And it's the coach, most coaches, the successful coaches, or a therapist, by the way, and I'll come to that in a second, a coach that transforms you by giving you the tools that are like a bridge between where you currently are and where you need to get to. That's vital. Now, a therapist can do the same thing, but a therapist is going to be working a little bit more on your psychology, a psychiatrist, right? And I just want to say this. I say this in a lot of my trainings. The topic of mental health is one of the last taboos, but in my opinion, it's not taboo anymore. It makes perfect sense for you to have a therapist if you have a mental health issue and you take personal responsibility for that. Don't go and find a career coach or a business coach or somebody who's going to coach you a life coaching course. That's not what you need if you have a mental health issue. Go to a mental health certified, well-trained, experienced practitioner who's going to be able to give you the tools to take you from where you are right now to put you in a position where you could take on that career coach. Does that making sense to you? And this is exactly the path I did. I had to do some homework on my brain. And then I had to go to, right, how do I get myself into momentum? And the fastest way, step into vulnerability, hire that coach and get moving. Now, what did that then bring? Well, it brought me to the point of understanding that the relationships I currently had in my life and in my work weren't the right standard. They weren't with the right people. And so I categorized these and started to think about my relationships and my friendships in 2 or 3 distinct categories. I'm just going to cover 3 today, but there may be some more nuances to this for you too. But I want you to think about one classification of these relationships is these are my old friends. I love them dearly, but they are not in a rut. They are not in my career journey. They're not on my life path, and they're not actually helping me get forward. So I'm always going to love them and I'm always going to spend more time with them. I'm just going to diminish the amount of time I spend with those people. Then you've got the relationships that drag you down. It's like the middle group of maintenance relationships, transactional relationships. These are not good relationships to be in. You'll know you're in them if they feel resistant, they feel hard work. It's not free flowing. It's frustrating. They say annoying things to you. They get under your skin. These ones are the ones to dramatically reduce or completely eliminate. You know, I've been friends with some people who are realists. It's just a fancy term for I'm a pessimist and I don't believe in you and I'm not going to support your mission and I'm not going to jump on board of you doing what you're doing. That's just not what I'm going to do. So that's the first category is this old friends, love them dearly, just spend a little bit less time with them because they don't help you grow. Second is this maintenance transactional relationships. This is work colleagues, maybe some family members, maybe some friends. But you just got to distance yourself from those people who are always dragging you in with their negativity, their complaining, their judgment, their lack of courage, their shame, their embarrassment. They're just always marketing to you those things. And the third category is really the people who are going to help you grow. New relationships that are on the same path as you or ahead of you, people who know what it's like to be stuck in a rut, climb out of that, don that suit of armor and take life on and take our career on head on. That's what we're looking for. So what does that look like in vulnerability? Well, there's a place, when I talked about stick or twist, stick or joy, there's a place we can go to, and it is outside of the comfort zone. We choose comfort for survival, by the way, but that is not to thrive. If we want to thrive, we need to move to the first zone I call stretch. We have to stretch ourselves by placing a greater demand on what we need to be doing every single day with our habits, our behaviors, our practices, and our activities. And if you're not stretching yourself, then you're likely to stay in the rut because you're in the comfort of survival. And sometimes we can get even more stuck in survival and we find ourselves anxious, depressed, stressed, exhausted, burned out, and you may have felt these things. And by the way, I am the expert of all of those things because I've been through them all and I know how terribly debilitating it can be. Now, there is a place beyond where we place demand upon ourselves in the stretch zone, and this is where real growth and change happens for you. And that is on the extreme stretch, way outside of our comfort zone, doing bold things that we're extremely uncomfortable with. They just don't feel natural to us. We are completely inexperienced. But what that does for us is boosts esteem. And so you want to feel better. You know, remember that little voice saying, you're not good enough. You're not the right person for this. Your identity is somebody who's ashamed of this thing that you're covering up from the world that you've never shown before and you're embarrassed. But your esteem is the thing that lifts you out of that, because you can only be your best self when you are in esteem, meaning you've got to bring together all of the things that make you the great, delicious, wonderful human being you are. And that's where you get to, in esteem. And it's way beyond stretch. It's the extreme stretch. It's the outer rim of your capability. It's an outer rim, a reference there to Star Wars. I hope that gives you a good laugh. It made me laugh anyway. Okay, so number 4. Remember so far, let's recap. Number 1, decide. Number 2, just quickly look at these. Number 2, get into action, momentum. Number 3, vulnerability. And then number 4, patience. We have to be patient. So that one of the things that you'll feel is a gut instinct. And sometimes when we're stuck in a rut, your gut instinct says, wait and see. But that's because your gut is where patience lives. It gives you intestinal fortitude to see it out to the end, to be loyal. And those are the things that sometimes hold us back from embracing what is also found inside our gut, is our passions. And let me explain that to you. You get offered a new job and you're super passionate about it. It's because your gut instinct says, this is right for me. But when your gut instinct says, I'm not sure about this, it's because you're not passionate about what's being laid before you. And sometimes when we're stuck in a rut, you're going to feel me now, your passions aren't up and alive and you're not feeling very patient. You want to get out and you want to feel passionate. And so we get that conflict of, I'll just wait and see. I've really got to sort this out. And it's those two voices in our head that one of them is saying, go, go, go. And the other one is saying, that's not you. You've never been able to prove that that's you. You've never been able to deliver against that objective. So here's the first thing that I'm going to say to you, and you can write this down. Please write this down. Remember to write down your worthwhile endeavor for your life. What is the thing that you want to work on until the day you're no longer here? And most people don't think about this. They just go to work to get the money to take care of food and water and shelter. They survive, but not you. You're success driven. It's why you're watching this, is you want to thrive. So you've got to go beyond that, which means you've got a worthwhile endeavor to pursue with meaning for the remainder of your life, and never give up. And that might mean you move between roles and career opportunities, and you change businesses, and you start a business, you close that business, you start another business. It's the journey. Remember, this is the stuff that's the most enjoyable, is that you're on the journey. But I want you to write down, what is that life goal you have for yourself as it relates to your career? You know what you want. And it would take me 5 minutes in our conversation together to get that out of you and on a piece of paper. And you just go, I'm not doing that. And it's like, yeah, great. We're going to write that down. Write down, what do you want? What is the worthwhile endeavor that you'll never give up on for your career, your work, your personal impact on the planet, what's going to have meaning for you, and then that's going to give you financial reward. If it's worthwhile to you, you'll never give up. So you'll get forward. So I want to make sure, though, that you heard what I said in the last point. Actually, it was in momentum, in the second point. I want to make sure that when you've got this written down, you now change your schedule. So I want you to put it in your schedule when you're going to work on this worthwhile endeavor. There's got to be time in your week where I can look at your calendar Monday to Friday or Monday to Sunday, to however you want to set your week up. You might start on a Sunday. Whatever the week looks like, I need to see in your calendar somewhere what you're doing, where you're going, your life goal, and it's clear to me what you're trying to achieve. If we're stuck in a rut, it's very likely, as it was with me and lots of people I talk to, that is not written down anywhere, and it's certainly not documented inside of your calendar. So your calendar, your schedule for the week needs to show it. I use a planner here, and it's written down. My 5 days, so Sunday, I write down what's happening this week, plan everything out, and so you can see what I'm working on, whether I'm building content, whether I'm writing, whether I'm meeting people for business prospecting meetings, or I'm having conversations with clients, like I'd be coaching somebody. That's all in there. You have to get that schedule for what you're doing inside your calendar. And here's the last thing I'm going to say to you about patience. A lot of people don't give themselves enough credit. They don't do enough pats on the back. It is your duty to congratulate yourself at the end of every single day. And if you don't know how to do that, let's just ask you one question. You can write this down so you've got it for every single day. Before you go to sleep, before you get into bed and close the lights out, the last thing we can do at night is just to ask this question. What is it that went very well today? What is it that I'm very proud of today? Just write that down. And you're celebrating yourself in the moment. But the most important thing is that you write it so you can see it outside of yourself to silence the worst self. Because this starts to become day after day after day after day of a preponderance of evidence, of proof that you are an achiever, that you are somebody who doesn't hold back, doesn't stick, somebody who steps into joy, steps into adventure, steps into a meaningful pursuit, an adventure, and you go after that. That's you. And if you have that, then you'll have it written down, and we'll always be able to say, congratulations. You reward yourself. It's going to change the way you feel about how patient you're going to be to achieve that life goal we just talked about. So that was number 4, and we're going to go into the 5th one now before we wrap this up. So here's number 5, strategy number 5. Whoa, shocker, drum roll. This is going to really surprise you. Strategy number 5 is you. That's right. If you want to climb out of the career rut that you find yourself in, you have to get past this, am I good enough? Continually asking yourself, am I good enough? Because if you tell me, I know I'm good, I know I love what I do, I know I can do good work, other people don't see the value, what I'm hearing is you questioning yourself, am I good enough? And if we question ourselves if we're good enough, one of the other questions we're asking is, does anybody care about me? Do I matter? You have to go through this question, write this down. If you feel like, I know I'm good, I know I can do good work, nobody seems to value me, when you say those things to me, what your brain is actually doing is defending yourself by asking your identity, you're not good enough. Are you good enough? Am I good enough? And so we question ourselves, and that's what puts us in this position. And if we stay there long enough, it's what puts us into depression and anxiety and stress and exhaustion. That's what happens. It's like a vicious circle down at that point. So you've got to understand that that's the important part of this 5th strategy is you have to go to work on yourself. You have to work hard on yourself. And there's 3 places in which I can see that this work needs to be done. The first one is you've got to take care of your health, but you've got to do that from the physical health and the mental health. So if you are not doing the number 1 thing I would recommend you do physically, the number 1 thing to do physically before even sleep is to exercise. You have to exercise your body. If you're not fit for life, you won't be fit for your career. You've got to move your body in meaningful exercise and preferably once a week, getting yourself out of breath. Do the same with your mind. If your mind is not working out, meaning you're reading trash, you're on a diet of mental candy, social scrolling, watching the media, catching up on the news, watching the news every night. This is mental candy, and your brain is just then full of stuff that's going to keep you where you are. It's negative, most of it too. So that's the first one, physical and mental strength, because you're taking care of your body and mind. The next one is you've got to take a look at your relationships. Now, I covered that in the earlier section. I want to make sure you know, old friends, let's get clear about how much time we're going to spend with those people, even though we love them. Because if they're real friends, every time you pick the phone up, nothing will have changed. They'll stay where they are. They might say to you, hey, you've grown. You're just going to say, yeah, you haven't. And that's it. And they may seek you out for advice because you did grow. So that's important, that those maintenance relationships, the people who are dragging you down, it's transactional in nature. It feels hard. It feels resistant. It feels frustrating. They say annoying things to you. They wind you up. Get rid of those people and then move yourself into a position where you're in a community of people that is growing and striving at the way out of the comfort zone, that they're at the stretch zone and extreme stretch. And that's where you're going to get to. That's the second one, relationships. And then as you're working hard on yourself, the last thing to focus on is to make a concerted effort to write down who is the best version of you, the identity you want to be, or you currently are. We already have a best self. When we're being our best, we are courageous, we're bold, we're honest, we have integrity, we tell the truth, we speak up on behalf of others, especially in circumstances where there may be issues around gender or race or sexism, all these other things. That's important for your best self, but there may be an identity beyond that. Remember, I want you to stretch. What's the identity for you beyond that? That you walk with your shoulders back, with your head up high. You don't have your chin on your chest. What are these things in your identity for the best self you want to step into? You have to work hard on yourself. And then the next thing, the opposite of that, is to be careful and be wary of why their worst self, what we referred to earlier, from the documentaries, the shadow. Why does that shadow exist? It's because of these shameful, embarrassing, painful, angry encounters that we had in our lives that we don't want people to know about. So we hide it. But the problem with hiding it is the brain remembers the person you were. The brain remembers the moment. It has the memory. So we should use that memory to remind ourselves of what not to do. And then we use our best self to step into courage, to step forward with this. Last thing I'll say on this, if you want to get yourself out of a rut, I'm going to wrap up with just kind of summarizing some of the things I said. You're going to have to step into a place where forget about your career. This is about you. This whole section in number 5 is about you. I want you to go and find the thing you do in your life that is easy, that is fun, and provides you with enormous self-benefit. Now, a lot of people gather that from working out, from exercising. So do that. Other people love writing. Other people love reading. Other people love painting, putting some paint onto the canvas. Other people have interests in sports or motorsports, and they go and spend time doing that. You've got to start embracing the things that feel easy and fun and advantageous, and then notice the behaviors and the habits that you have in those environments and pull them into the workplace. But that's the good place to go. So look, 5 things. We'll just quickly wrap up here. First thing we say is you've got to decide. You must decide that you're going to get out of the rut. So you're going to go beyond that one. The second one was you're going to have to get yourself into momentum. Momentum matters. You got to take action to move forward. The third one was vulnerability and asking for help. That you're going to go and ask for help from coaches, from mentors, from your trusted ally. Who is that person who's already way out ahead of you, but is trusting the information you pass to them stays with them? That's what you're looking for when you ask for help. Then the 2 others, 4 and 5, 4 was patience. We have to be patient so we can be connected to our passions. We have to be patient so we can know our gut instinct is correct. And it's not about wait and see, even though patience will make people do that, more tied to their identity. It's about patience to get yourself on a journey that's going to get you to where you want for your life. And then the last one we talked about was you. That you are going to go to work hard on yourself, that you are good enough, you are loved enough, you're a delicious, wonderful person. And the chances of you being here are so infinitesimal that you owe it. It's your moral obligation and duty to give something to humanity. And you can do that through your work, no matter what you do, whether you're in a role with an organization and you have a career path and you're climbing a ladder. Maybe you're retiring and you're going to go and do some voluntary work or do some other projects. You're going to work some of the time, not all of the time. It's kind of my life now. Or you have your own business, or you're going to start a business. You are good enough. You are loved enough, and you can figure this out. So that was that last part. Go to work on yourself physically and mentally. Go to work on those relationships, and then always be mindful of the best self you want to step into. That is what's going to be out there in front of you. Now, look, if any of this resonated with you, I just want to mention this briefly. I never do a big sales pitch here. I don't go through a slide deck. I don't sell anything. I know that if you find yourself in a current reality that doesn't suit you, as it relates to your career, and you're looking for a desired state, somewhere you need some transformation, some tools, some help to get there, I'd love to be able to hear from you and love to be able to get a message from you so we can connect and at least have a conversation. There's no obligation in that conversation, but if you're a really good fit and you're serious about making big changes in your career, then I'm going to recommend that you come and join one of our coaching programs. They're awesome. They work wonders. They give you a customized plan that's going to change your career trajectory, and you're going to get incredible results. And I've got testimonials to share with you and experiences. You can see those things on our website too. But I want to make sure that you're not left behind. You know, the marketplace is changing rapidly. I was reading about ChatGPT this morning. You know, what does that mean for us? Well, not too much now based on the historical data set that's inside. But as that data set improves, and we get to version 10, 20, 30 of that, wow, the power of that's incredible. So we want you to take advantage. Don't get held back, and make sure that you're working with the right people that's going to get you moving forward. Now, that's it. I see if there are any questions here. I don't see any questions. I'm going to wrap it up. Hey, listen, have a wonderful remainder to your week this week. You know, and remember, you now have the information to avoid going into a career rut. And again, you now have the information to climb out of that rut, and you can wear a suit of armor for the rest of your career and be extremely successful, whatever it is you decide to do. And I'll see you next week. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.